laughing. I started with Ohio State. Perfect for us. That was totally random. I just put on like college fight song music and
That's pretty good.
invite you to please stand and join the singing of the Michigan State University alma mater with Spartan Marching Band Director, Professor John T. Madden on the podium.
All right, everybody, it's 12:45, so I want to get started so that we can get through all of our material. Welcome to everybody who isn't one of my students. You should notice up on the screen there is an attendance link. You want to make sure to go into there and answer the questions that are there, put in the information. And I'm going to send that information to the attendance offices so that you will be excused from your afternoon classes. A couple of quick introductions for those who don't know who we are here. I assume it's only the four of us who have our cameras on screen, and I apologize, Diana, I didn't know you were going to be joining us today, so that's so exciting. Otherwise, I would have thrown you up on the board. For those who don't know, my name is Mr. Blakesley. I go by JB though, so that's what most of the students call me. And anyone who wants to jump into the chat today, you can do the same thing. You can unmic yourself and throw any question you want, or you can throw it into the chat feature. I kind of consider myself a skilled professional, so I keep an eye on that going as the same time as running the show here. But my colleagues, if you want to unmute and introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Lehman. I'm one of the counselors at the park, and I'm happy to be here to talk about essays in the future for your college applications.
Hi, I'm Mr. Forsland. I teach philosophy, logic, and U.S. history over at here at Canton High School. And I've just been running kind of a college application crash course for a few years now to try to help students with the whole process. But I'm excited to listen to Mr. Blakesley today about the essay, which probably is going to play a more important role now that more schools are going test optional.
Absolutely. Diana, you want to?
Sure, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm Mrs. McLean and I run the Career Center. I've been out, but I'm back for these few days before school's out, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all in the fall and helping you with your applications.
Awesome. So to get started, I want to throw this quote at you, which ironically is the way you don't want to start your essays. But I do like this quote. The best way to predict the future is to create it yourself, because the whole idea for what we're going to be going after here is to truly understand who you are as a person and where you are on your journey right now. Because to do the essay, you have to be honest with those answers, even if you have no idea what you're going to be doing or where you're going to be going. The idea is to right now think about where are you headed? Where's your future? Or where would you like it to be? And if you get a hold of that and you can keep that in mind, then writing the essay becomes actually very, very easy. All right, so we're going to start with our groundwork here as Ms. Lehman goes through and gives some information that often gets, I get asked this after doing this presentation, and she has much better answers for you. So Go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so where we're at right now is the hope is that you guys have all had your junior conference. One of the key factors in your junior conference was a Google form sent by your counselor that asked you to fill out like a student information sheet. It gave you some information for you to fill out that would tell us a little bit more about the activities, the extra things you've been involved in. So instead of just looking at your transcript, we'd like to know those other things that are about you and explain you, because that's what we use when we go into Common Apps and filling out college applications for you. Right now, you should be working at kind of making that connection with your teachers, if you haven't already, of who will write recommendation letters for you. We want to make sure that you've made that contact in person or via email before they get the link in the fall. We want to make sure that you've reached out to them. People that you can do recommendation letters for are your teachers, are definitely good ones to go to. Core teachers are great, but any teacher that you've had a really good connection with, that they've known you a little bit longer than just maybe a semester, but at the same time, if it's only been a semester and you have a good connection with them, then follow back with a resume. Tell them a little bit more about you outside of their classroom, of who you are as well. But you want to kind of keep that relationship and connection and know who are going to be writing those recommendation letters for you. The other people could be in your life, could be a boss, it could be a coach, it could be an advisor that you work with. So there's a lot of different people that you can choose from. The one you do not choose is a family member. You do not want to pick somebody that you're related to in any way, whether it's in-law, outlaw, however it's determined. If they are some part of your family, then you want to make sure that's not somebody doing a recommendation letter. So as you head into summer, what we tell you to do is just kind of be ready for this. When you are ready and prepared and you've taken that kind of mental break from school of this year and are ready to start looking into college applications and preparing for that, kind of follow up on your recommendation letters, kind of connect back with your teachers, send them a quick email. You might get a bounce back that says, I'm out for the summer. That's okay. At least you've made that connection back to them. And then what happens come August 1st is if you have signed up on a college, Michigan State, U of M, wherever it might be, if you've signed up on their email notification, you'll be notified the moment the Common application opens. And that's the one we're really kind of focusing more so on today, just because of the essay connection for that. You want to make sure that as soon as you can is go in and add your recommenders. So as soon as the Common App opens, we want you to create your account, start by getting your name, your basic information in, and put your list of colleges. Once you've listed the colleges, you can then go into those and find the recommender section. And that's where you're going to enter your counselor's email address, making sure you're very careful about spelling it correctly. You're going to add your teacher's email addresses or your contacts for those recommenders. And then after you submit that part, it'll send an email out to those people and we can begin working on the recommendations. The moment you start your application, we do ask you to do that, because while you're filling in and you're working on your essays and you're getting your information about activities and clubs entered into the applications, we also want to be doing our part. We really appreciate the opportunity to have more time to work on it than anything else. The other thing you're going to do is, if you're doing the Common application, and as we said in our junior conference meeting, this would be a while ago, so go back to your memory bank. But if you're doing the Common App, you're going to request your parchment to have your transcript sent to Common App. You'll need your Common App ID number to make sure it connects that to it. As a counselor, I cannot submit until I have your transcript. So it is an important step in the Common App completion process, is that you not only require us to be your recommender, but then also go into Parchment and request that your transcript go to Common App. You can't do any of this until August. So you have some time to relax and get away from this, but then realize that that's an important step. Our transcripts don't come out until about early September. It's just mainly, or middle of September. It's because of we're trying to make sure that everything is updated and we have the most accurate transcripts out there for you. All right. So hopefully that helps some. I think that kind of hit on everything. Again, get that student information sheet that your counselor sent out to you. If you don't have it, I would go back to the first week of March is when most of us emailed it to you from our email addresses. So if you look for your counselor's email address in that first week of March, you should have your Google form, student survey, student information sheet that we want you to fill out that Google form so that we have updated information and we can be ready to start as soon as you start those Common Apps.
All right, so in the chat, there were a couple of questions that came across privately, but I think bear sharing.
Okay.
One of them was, I guess there was misconstrued as a workshop. So if you already have written your essays and you are hoping to get some feedback on them today, this is more of a kind of how-to presentation. So hopefully as you listen through it, you can decide whether or not we're on the right track. And what I'm going to tell everybody at the end, but I can start here, is that I'm willing to help anyone who's on this call right now, that you can over the summer send me those emails or send me your letters or your essays, sorry, and I will take a look at them when I can. Just please don't send them like the week before school starts and ask me to do it, that day. The other question that came up actually is, I'm going to jump ahead here, is for the recommendation letters. And this question came up as someone asked, like, who should we ask and how many we should get? So the idea is I put a link into the chat. You can pick that up, or there's the bit.ly link here, which PSEP rec for rec letter. The idea is to get 3 different rec letters from 3 different sources. So don't go to like 3 English teachers and ask. If you're going to ask for just teacher recommendations, then make sure they're math, science, and English or something like that. And the more pointed your rec letters can be, the better. So if you know that you're going to go into something scientific, asking a science teacher is going to hold a little bit more weight to it. Better, you should break it off from just teachers too. So think about people who know you, who can talk about your characters. So coaches, jobs, people who you work with, and don't think that it has to be like the store manager of a place too. If you have a customer who comes in regularly, who can write you a letter rec or something like that, then this is going to be a good idea as well. And sometimes, especially if you are a procrastinator and you come down to it and you realize, oh my gosh, I wanted to send my thing in and I forgot to ask for rec letters. There's nothing that says you can't write it yourself and send it to a teacher and say, hey, listen, I know you're busy. I've got this deadline that I blew it. I should have asked you a long time ago, but I've actually written a letter. If I send it to you, will you go through? And if you agree, just sign off on it or make any tweaks or different things like that. So I've had some students do that for me in the past. And, usually when I'm under pressure too, especially at the beginning of the school year, which is a bad time to ask, that sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do that for you. No worries. All right, so let me just back up and talk a little bit about the different terms that you should be aware of as you're applying. So Common App is the most common. This is the one-stop application. Hundreds of schools are going to go into it. It's nice because you can just apply once, send in all your information, and then all the different schools will go look for it. Now, when you do Common App, like especially for U of M, it's not the only thing you're going to be doing. So there are usually supplementals that go along with it, but it is nice to have that kind of one-stop shopping. And if you go into the Common App essay questions, then it'll give you 7 or 8, I don't remember off the top of my head, different things you can write about. The Coalition app asks for a little bit more detail, and it is designed for low-income and otherwise other underrepresented students. So the Coalition app will give them some different information, some more information, and you should look at the Coalition app if you think that the Common App is not giving enough of your story. So the Coalition app will give a little bit more of the story and a little bit more information, a little bit different information when you apply. And it's the same thing that many, many schools will look at this as well. If you know that you're going to be only applying to a certain school, you want to make sure the Coalition app is listed, your school is listed under one that takes it. Early action means that the university is going to be looking at accepting a certain group of people early. And the reality is that should be the action that you're going for. So if you see early action on something, that's the one you should be going for. Because what happens is the universities will accept a certain amount of people at that point, fill all the spots, then the regular admission will be left for anyone who hasn't applied to the early. So early action shows that you're truly interested in that university, that you're a go-getter, that you're ready to do that. So that really should be your deadline anyway.
And if I can interject, that is what we share. We have told you that October 31st is the date we want you in, not only because of the admissions aspect, but we also know the longer you prolong this, there's a lot of work and detail that needs to go into this. And we know that you need a deadline, because then you can shut that part of it off and then wait for all the acceptance letters to come in. So definitely stay to it or stick to it.
Yeah, and the idea is if you get this done over the next couple of days, you know, get it done before the school year's over, and then you don't have to worry about these things. You can do, you submit all your information later. And then early decision, the last one, this one you have to be very careful about, because if you pick a university that's early decision, you are signing a legally binding contract that you are going to pay that university for the duration, whether or not you go. So make sure if it says early decision, not early action, early decision, that you know what you're getting into. This, you're not going to change your mind. You are going to do that.
The counselors get a binding contract as part of the Common App when you choose early decision. So you may, if you choose early decision, you'll hear from your counselor that we will reinforce that exact statement, that you are committing that if they accept you, you're going. So we do have to fill something out and to attest that we have met with you and had a conversation with you. So that's important to understand.
All right. So one of the other questions that came across the chat was, how many prompts do you have to write for Common App? Just one. So the Common App will give you a choice, including the very last one, which is pick any essay that you've written. So I will talk about those, but it is just one of the different choices prompts that will come up. So a couple other things to consider as you get ready to apply for your colleges. First is consider what you want to do with your life, because, you know, I hear people say, well, I'm just going to Schoolcraft. And I want to kind of smack them on the side of the head and go, what do you mean just going to? You're going to a post-high school, university, college setting. Don't degrade anything like that. And as Mr. Forsland likes to talk about, you know, the costs, when you sit down and you figure out the costs, Schoolcraft is the smartest way to do. I kept trying to get my daughters to do this because you can get the same college credits for a third of the cost. The part of that trade-off is oftentimes you still have to live at home though, right? And I know many of you are like, nope, can't wait to get out of my house, so I got to get out of here. But if you don't mind staying at home, oh my gosh, or if you were like me in my situation, when I went through, I had to pay for my own college. Parents couldn't help at all. And, you know, there was still that stigma, like going to the community college, it's just not worth it. So, John, I don't know if you wanted to jump in now and talk a little bit about what we were talking about in the class, or if you want to save that for the end about the actual cost analysis and why Schoolcraft is better than maybe Washtenaw.
Well, I can save it for the end, but I would say that they've done studies on people who've started out at a community college and then gone to a four-year university, and actually they don't finish the four-year university any faster, and probably actually more slowly than somebody who goes through with a four-year. And that's because when you go to community college, you have to make sure that all of your credits transfer. So you should probably decide, what is your destination school? Is it Michigan, Michigan State, Grand Valley? And you find out all of the graduation requirements at your destination school. And then there are some search engines that can help you find what the equivalent would be at Schoolcraft. So again, you find out the graduation requirements at your destination school. Then you go to, like, for example, my daughter at Michigan State, she had to take calc, a survey of calculus. So, and that is math 124 at Michigan State. Well, what's the equivalent at Schoolcraft? And Schoolcraft did offer, she didn't take it. Unfortunately, we paid it for it at Michigan State, but it was, you can find the equivalent at Schoolcraft. And by the way, because your parents pay property taxes for Schoolcraft College and not Washtenaw or Wayne County Community College, you get even more of a break at Schoolcraft compared to Oakland Community College, Henry Ford, Wayne County Community College. So because we're a feeder school at, for Schoolcraft, and because your parents pay property taxes to support Schoolcraft College.
Yeah, one of the other considerations too with that is once you get your degree from your four-year university, it doesn't specify whether you went there for 4 years. It says this is where you finished the program. So if you do 2 years at Schoolcraft and then 2 years at University of Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, it's a U of M degree. So it's not going to list those things like that. The other thing too, speaking of U of M, is I hear too many students who say that, well, I think I'm going to start at Dearborn and then transfer to Ann Arbor. And I want you to understand that once you get out and you graduate, a U of M degree is a U of M degree. People don't specify when you say, oh, I graduated from U of M, they go, oh, Dearborn, right? But no, it's like a U of M degree is a U of M degree. So don't think that you have to start at this kind of lower level and then get to where you want to go. The second part up here, declaring a major, is you will not declare your major until your junior year of college. And that happens for a reason, because statistically speaking, you're going to change your mind 3 times in college. So statistics show us that 3 times you're going to do that. So it's okay to go in not knowing what you want to do. And you might go in knowing exactly what you want to do. And then you take that one class, like, oh, I'm going into medicine. And then you take orgo and you go, oh, organic chemistry. Nope, I can't do medicine. That's going to be it. So don't get too caught up in that whole idea of I've got my whole life set and this is the way things have to go, because you're just going to cause yourself undue stress. And then the last little bit is scholarships. Like I said, I had to pay my own way through college. I actually turned down U of M Ann Arbor because MSU offered me half-ride scholarships. So know that there is a ton of money available for you. And the counseling office has lists, yeah?
So there's the website that the link is on here. I would tell you to go ahead and cruise through it now, or just as after finals, because the nice thing is so many of the scholarships are very similar from year to year, and the requirements or the expectations of what you need, whether it's recommendation letters or an essay or just a resume of any kind. So they maintain pretty much the same thing. So it is definitely helpful for you to kind of get an idea of what's out there. The kids that were the most successful would look ahead to deadlines and use kind of break it up into sections of the school year in applying for those scholarships. They usually don't start showing up until about mid-October. So you do have a little bit of time to complete those college applications and then move on to the scholarships.
And what you'll find is I know several of you, my students that I've already talked to, I know several of you have already committed to your colleges, going to be playing sports mostly. And the scholarships are one of the things to go after those is sometimes they pay the university and sometimes they pay you. So oftentimes you can use the money for whatever you deem important for the college thing, like buying a brand new laptop computer or maybe a car to commute even, something like that. All right, so when you go to do this, why this is so important, being here today to learn how to do the essay correctly, is it really is a race. You are now in competition with other people. So we look at, what the acceptance is and how many people are applying and get these numbers. And just for like U of M Ann Arbor, 10,000 spots are going to be open in the fall, and there's greater than 80,000 applicants for these spots. So you got to remember that you are in a competition. You are going up against people from around the world for a very limited amount of spots. So now is the time to brag. No one is going to toot your own horn, right? It's you have to toot your horn for you. So now is the time to get over that whole, well, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. You have to brag. But you also have to be careful, because you might think that I'm all that, right? Like I got a 4.3, I'm going to get in no problem. Now you're going up against people who have 4.4s and 4.5s and whatever the number can go up to. So you have to think about what's going to set you apart. What's going to make you better than 7 other applicants who are trying for that same spot. And you have to, like I said, brag. This is the time for you to talk about how awesome you are and make them really want you to be part of their program. And the universities are no longer asking for the SATs. I mean, part of it was the pandemic, part of it goes back to the Varsity Blues scandal, but more and more the universities are starting to drop that requirement. They're saying, like, we don't even want your SAT number anymore. We want this whole body of work. We want to see your transcripts. We want to see what your extracurriculars were. We want to see, were you busy working a full-time job because you knew you'd have to pay for college? And then this essay, which really does humanize you. It turns you into something more than the numbers will ever show. So when we look at this, there are 3 major takeaways. The first and foremost, and I'm going to keep pushing this over and over and over, no matter what the prompt is, no matter what prompt you choose, the essay has to be about you. It has to focus on you. It has to explain who you are. It has to set you apart from everybody else. But number 2 is you have to make sure also that you're answering the prompt itself. So if the question says, why did you choose this university? And you want to talk about yourself, then you have to at some point include why you have chosen that university. If it talks about, well, what did you overcome? What have you overcome in life? And how, what did you struggle and how did you win? Then you have to talk about a struggle and how you came up with it. And you want to read those carefully because oftentimes the words themselves will give you clues that people will miss. So it will be something like, what was a struggle that you overcame? How did you do it? And people will spend a ton of time talking about the struggle instead of how they overcame it, what they did specifically. So we want to make sure we're answering the prompt carefully too. And then number 3, make sure you're working with other people. So pat yourselves on the back right now because you've already taken that first step. You're sitting with us, listening to people who have gone through this many, many times and have given this advice out many, many times. So from this point forward, you're not on an island anymore. Talk to your friends, talk to graduates, talk to people who are in university right now. Come in and find me in room 216 in Canton and ask me questions or send me emails and ask information to any one of us. So every step of this should be done with other people. It should not be done on an island. All right, so what are they going to see in your application when you apply? They're going to see things like your academic clubs, your classes. They're going to see all your grades on your transcripts. They're going to see the sports that you played. You're going to be answering a series of questions. So now when you think about the essay, don't do those things. They've already seen those things. And too many people make the mistake of just listing the things that they've done. So, and they're like, well, I can see that elsewhere in the application. That didn't help me learn about you at all. Now, when you go to write your essay, it might be about your experience in one of those clubs or one of those sports or one of those classes. That's okay, as long as you're giving a ton more information. So the idea is you want to talk about what makes you different, what makes you human, what makes you memorable, what makes you interesting. And if you don't have something from your past that will get there, then talk about what your aspirations are. Talk about your future goals. Talk about what you want to do with your life. And that also creates some interest. So think about where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. And the information for your essay is going to come from at least one of those different spots. So there's 3 different types of questions that you're going to be asked. The first one is the easy one, where they're just like, tell us about yourself. And it'll be some variation of that. The second question is the tricky one. U of M asks this question, and then you can go online and see these videos of them saying, but you have to be careful about how you hear it, because it'll say, why did you choose our college? So like University of Michigan in particular, you apply to the university, and then you apply to the college within the university that you're going. So that might be nursing, it might be education, it might be engineering, it might be business, it might be LSA, the liberal science and arts. And it'll say, why did you choose this? And too many people make the mistake of talking about the program. The issue, when you think about it logically, is they already work there. They already know the program. They don't want you to talk about the program. They're asking, what is it about you that makes this a good program for? So again, keep reminding yourself, no matter what the question is, I have to talk about myself. All right, the third one is the head scratcher questions. Those, University of Chicago is my favorite. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. Those are the really bizarre questions that you're like, how am I supposed to talk about myself when it asks this type of weird question? All right, so let's look at the first one. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of growth and a new understanding of yourself. So that's easy to talk about yourself. You're going to talk about that realization when you went through some growth period, right? When did you figure out that you weren't a kid anymore? Something happened to you that went through it. And this is going to come up several times, but I want to start with this idea right now. When you hit this type of question, some sort of event, realization, personal growth, understanding, or when you hit the question that says, what is something that you had to overcome? Please do not write about COVID. It is going to be so overdone this year that they're already telling us they're getting sick of hearing about people's stories of, oh my God, the pandemic was horrific. Don't do that, because now you're going to blend in with everybody else who's doing it. So we keep getting these recommendations. Don't write about COVID. Don't write about COVID. All right, so you can see the second question, describe a unique quality that attracted you to the specific undergraduate college or school. If you look at that carefully, they're not asking about the unique quality of the school. They're looking about your unique quality that attracted you to that school. So if you're applying to the School of Nursing, what is it about you that made you want to be a nurse? All right, and then the third, these are the weird questions. Describe what book best describes your life, or why is backyard one word and front yard 2 words, or Plato or Play-Doh? This was one of the questions for University of Chicago that actually helped a student get in. And she was like, how am I supposed to write about myself when the question is Plato or Play-Doh? And she ended up writing this really great essay about how she was very knowledgeable and a smart individual who ironically had Mr. Forsland and understood logic and reasoning and Plato's Allegory of the Cave, but it was also fun to be around. She was like playing with toys, Play-Doh. So Plato or Play-Doh, well, she's a combination of both. All right, so that idea, keep that in mind. How do I always turn this to talk about myself? So think about these kind of things. Again, where have I been? And what you're going to do is you're going to start your essay with a story. It's not going to be a quote. It's not going to be a list of accomplishments. It's going to be right in the middle of a story. So they're going to be reading these things over and over and over. Like, I was captain of the swim team, and I was on 14 clubs, and I was the president of student council, and I would or here's this great quote that I'm never going to talk about again. And then they hit yours that says, the day my face fell off was the most interesting day of my life. And they go, the way what? And they start reading because you start in the middle of a story. And that was actually the start of one of my favorite essays about a student who wanted to go into medicine. And she had fallen off of swing set when she was very young and actually scraped up her face to the point of actually needing surgery. So you start with a story, catch their attention, and you add in where you're going. And they want to hear that you have goals. They don't want to hear words like wishes, like, I wish this would happen. No, you got to take control, man. Or I hope this happens. No, not hope. I plan to do this, right? Here is what I'm doing. I am a skilled professional. Do not try this at home. All right, think about how you've prepped for things. So if you already know, for instance, you're going to go into education, then you want to talk about, oh, well, here are the classes that I've taken have gotten me ready for education. Or I've been watching these teachers and plan to model these certain things that have happened. And then how are you going to get there? This is where the university comes in. How are they going to help you get to your goals? What are those goals? All right, so University of Chicago reminds you to be original, creative, and thought-provoking. Draw on your best qualities as a writer, thinker, visionary, social critic, sage, or even citizen of the world. Take a little risk, have some fun, share what you know best, you. And then mine is just that reiteration, writing is never done on an island. Collaborate with other people throughout this whole process. When it's done, send it off and stop worrying about it. Because good writing is never done, it's only submitted. All right, so let's think about this. How are you going to set yourself apart? Because I know several of you are right now going, I'm so vanilla, I'm not going to set, oh, this is going to be terrible. So we're going to start again with that story. We're going to start right in the middle of it. We're going to catch their attention by being right in the middle of a story. Imagine you've picked up a phone and you, oh, wow, this is a guy I haven't talked to in years. What story are you going to share with them? Oh my gosh, I haven't heard from you. Friend says, hey, what's been going on? You're like, so let me tell you, last year, this, and you start, that's how you start your essay, is you start right in the middle of the story and bam, you're going to be ahead of half of the applicants who are already applying. Second, you can think about one trait. If you had to water yourself down, what's the one trait that you want to make sure they know about yourself, right? So are you motivated? Are you interesting? Are you a special help to other people? You know, what is it that one thing that will help you set yourself apart from other people? And then number 3 is to have some fun. University of Chicago actually says that, like, have some fun when you do this. And one of my favorite stories comes from Yale. And this was a couple years ago now. A young lady is applying to Yale. And the prompt question was, what is something at which you excel, right? So what's something you're good at? And she said, I am the best at ordering pizza. And she wrote this whole essay about what an awesome pizza orderer she was and what a fantastic job she did with it, told the story of ordering this pizza. Yale was so excited when they read that. They were so blown away by it. They're like, oh my gosh, they didn't send her a letter, didn't send her an email. They called her and said, we were so excited. We were sitting around the room. Everybody's reading it. We're laughing. We definitely wanted to extend that you are going to be one of our favorite students at Yale. Congratulations, you've made it in. And she told him, oh, thanks. I just wanted to see if I could get in. I'm actually going to go to University of Georgia. And she didn't go to Yale. So fun stuff. This is what you do, right? So think about that. At the other end of your essay is a human being that you want to somehow reach, right? And talk to. So we're going to do that with our essays. All right. If you know what you want to do, then think about what event in your life started you on that path. So with The Day My Face Fell Off, Monica was the author of that one. She said, well, I know I want to go into surgery because of this instance that happened to me. And I thought my life was over, but I had to get facial reconstructive surgery. And they did such a really good job, no one could really tell. So she tells this great story of how she knew that she wanted to do this as a job. But also think about, if you don't know what it is, I want you to think about what makes you happy. So think about this for just 1 minute. I'm actually going to encourage you to jump into the chat right now on Zoom, and into chat. I want you to consider this scenario. I am actually a multi-billionaire. I have billions and billions of dollars. And because you showed up to this, I'm going to start giving you $10,000 a day for the rest of your life. You do not have to work. You never, ever have to worry about money. What are you going to do with your days? So prove you're still in the room, throw into chat, what would you do besides sleep? Because I know that's the first answer for all teenagers. Oh, I would sleep. All right, look at that. Travel, travel, travel. Invest. Travel, 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 lots of travels. All right, buy a dream home, then do what? What would you do? Deliver care packages to homeless people. That's cool. Travel with friends, travel, read, fund Eagle Scout projects, invest, volunteer, donate. All right. Buy every book possible, persuade a passion I've always wanted to be. Okay, never had the funds for, help people in need, buy food, travel, pay off debt, donate, donate, donate. All right. So you kind of see these different things that keep coming up, like travel, help people. Oftentimes people will answer things like, I would start to create things, like I would invent things. I would be just a tinkerer. I would, do this, I would do this, I would do this. These are called your life goals. So I want you to think about that for a minute. When you answer that question, if money didn't matter, what would you do with all of your days? That's what you should be looking for when you declare a major. You should be looking for something that allows you to meet those life goals, because then when you do, you're happy every day. So think about something that will help, help other people. What kind of careers will I be able to help people every day? Or travel, right? What careers will allow me to travel? And when I was sitting in your chair, many, many years ago, studying Julius Caesar and current events, I asked that question. My two top priorities were, I wanted to travel to learn, and I wanted to perform. Like I wanted to be an actor of some sort, like that. And I realized that's really what I do every day, right? Is I get up in front of the classroom and I perform. And then during the summers, I get to travel and go learn things that I get to share with people, during the school year. So I'm meeting my life goals every single day of my life, and I still can't believe I get paid to do it. Right? So think about, what is it that makes you happy outside of money, and see if you can get those jobs. And what's funny is, over the years, I've had many, many people who listen to this. I tell them, do what you love what you do, and the money will follow. They're like, that's not true. Like, I'm going into law because I'm going to make money. And I go, if you're going into it and you don't like it, you're going to be bad at it, and you're not going to make money at it. But if you love what you're doing, you're going to make money. And, one of the kids sitting there is all, nope, not a chance. And I go, why? He goes, all I want to do is play video games all day. So you know what he's doing right now? He works for a company. He actually got a dual major in game design and English. And he is the one who writes and proofs all of the scripts when you have characters that talk to each other in video games. So literally all he does all day is play video games. And then he talks about, oh, this is totally unnatural. This doesn't work. Why would you have this? So he gets paid all day to play video games. I had another student sitting there going, man, all I want to do is go sit out in the woods. I want to be a hermit. And you know what he does? He's a park ranger out in Utah. So literally he goes and he sits out in the woods all day, right? He drives around in a 4x4. He helps make sure there's no fires starting places. This is a guy who's getting paid to what is someone who says, well, I want to travel. You become a pilot, right? Or you work for a travel company that allows you to do that. I want to create things. I want to design things. Like, so people think, well, I want to go into medicine. Doesn't mean you have to do surgery. You might be someone who studies, does research and different things like that. And then at the very end, I have that question mark, because again, if you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. That you're so young right now. You have so much time before you have to decide those things. And that's what the university is for, is to go test things out and try things out and see what you like. But again, if you think about what if money didn't exist, what would make me happy? And you start to pursue classes and start to think about those things, then you're going to find that job. One of the other fun statistics is 4% of the jobs that exist right now, or when you graduate, will not exist when you graduate from college. They're going to be replaced by robots, or something else is going to happen. That 4% of they just won't exist as jobs. Like, you can't do that anymore. And they're going to be replaced by things that you didn't see coming, or hopefully that you did see coming and you prepped for it. Something like a social media advertising director, right? And it's before social media was a thing. That was companies didn't know what to do when Twitter and Snapchat and all those blew up. They didn't know what to do. And now you can get degrees in those things. So keep a look on the future too, and see if you can figure out what's coming up. Because again, the best way to predict the future is to invent it yourself. All right, so think about that, where you've been. You're going to start with that story, and it's going to be a story about when you knew what you wanted to study, or what makes you happy in life, and where you're going. What are your goals? And it might be the career goal. I know I want to study medicine, or it might be that life goal. I know I want to help people in some capacity. And then think about how the university will get you there. So what is it they can do? So do a little research, find out the school, make sure that they offer the degree you're looking for, because that's happened before. Make sure that they're going to be able to give you classes like that. And then if you can include that information in the letter, it shows, oh, well, I was interested already to do some research and knows that we have these professors or these programs or these different things that will help them. All right, so the other, and is it too soon to say the variants? The variant questions, the why us, remember, still focus on you. So if it says, what is it that drew you to this college? It's think about those same kind of things. Well, what is it about you as a person that drew you to go to that college? And the abstract questions still have to focus on you. So when we get into the meat and potatoes, the actual writing of it, you want to think about this. Your audience is interested adults, so you have to write for an interested adult. Your word choice is going to avoid slang, right? You don't want to catch them off guard with saying something that they don't understand. You're going to avoid swearing. You're going to also hit your word limit. Make sure you are within the number that they specify. So Common App says 650. That means you want to get to 648, right? So get as close as you can without going over. And you have to be very careful if you're doing an online application where you cut and paste things. So of course, you're going to open up a Google Doc with Grammarly open to catch any of those errors. You're going to send it to someone else to proofread. And then you get ready and you copy and paste it in. When you paste it into an online application, it oftentimes will not tell you if you're over. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always do that. And what happens is at the other end, then suddenly your essay just gets cut off. So make sure you know what your word count is and you're within or as close as you can get to without going over whatever their specific word count is. And some of the word counts are tough. I mean, there's one of the essays, it's 250 words. That's a couple paragraphs. All right, so when we look at this and we start thinking about what you're going to write, these are sentences that came from previous students, and this is what they started with. I like to be surrounded by people with a variety of backgrounds and interests. Well, okay. But I don't really know you, right? You're telling me these things, but you're not showing me these things are true. So we want to think of specific language, specific words, specific examples. And in my composition class, I like to tell people, think about, quotes and statistics and personal experience and the different things that can show it's true. So the student ended up with, during that night, I sang the theme song to Casablanca with a little old lady, discussed Marxism with a basketball coach who thinks he's Tom Izzo, and heard more than I ever wanted to know about some woman's gallbladder operation. So you can see now, wow, I know, look, this person likes old movies, understands sports, knows Michigan State's basketball head coach, and is nice, right? Not willing to walk away from someone who's telling a story that they didn't want to hear. I spent that summer getting ready for varsity tryouts, and after much blood, sweat, and tears, I got a roster spot. Well, it's okay. You're showing that you have commitment, but First problem I see that is blood, sweat, and tears. Please don't use those overused phrases. Those get so tiresome, especially when they're used again and again in these essays. And think about, well, what did that mean to you? What does a varsity tryout mean? And what did blood, sweat, and tears mean? Like, tell me, or you're telling me here, show me what that meant. So the student's rewrite was, my family has always called them do-outs. Since we don't try, we do. I spent the morning conditioning 300 stadium bleacher steps in the evening, stopping shots on goal from my former coach who didn't hold back criticism. So you can see the difference between these two applicants, right? Is the first, and it's actually the same person, but the first one is like, yeah, you know, here's who I am, but I'm pretty much like everybody else. And the second one is, wow, here's someone who I know something very specific about. I help my friends. I'm always there for anyone who needs it. So anyone in my class knows, oh, dicto simplicitors, we don't use words like always and anyone. I want specifics. Are you there for your friends? And what does that mean to be there for your friends? You're not always there because you're not there right now, right? So when my friend Jamie was dealing with the loss of her father, I spent many sleepless nights at her house helping her process. When she would get into fits of depression, I had her tell me stories of the fun times they had shared. So here's someone who's going into psych, who's like, I'm already doing the things that a psychologist would do. And here's my proof. Here's the name. Here's what my friend was going through. And here's what I did to be there for them. Bob Marley saying every little thing is going to be all right. I agree with this quote because it tells people that even though things are bad now, they won't be forever. We can learn from each other. Okay, that's a good lesson. The last sentence is a good lesson. But why are you telling someone what someone else said instead of focusing on yourself? So one of the other things I'm going to tell you is avoid those quotes. Don't especially start with a quote unless you're going to weave it through the entire essay. So avoid professional quotes unless, again, it goes through your whole essay. So in the grand scheme of my life, getting a D+ on one assignment in one class will not amount to much. I went into a fit of depression, thinking my hopes for the best university had been dashed, but my friend Jackie was able to prove otherwise. So now I'm like, oh, now I'm understanding what the struggle was and how you got over it and learning from each other. You know, Jackie was there to help me. So again, the more specific you can get in the essay, the better you're going to come across. I'm not actually lazy, but I think after the year of COVID, many people are going to need to learn to take breaks, including naps. So it may appear to others that I can be lazy, but I think it's the new reality. Okay, I haven't learned a thing about you except that you like to nap, and this is a very wordy way to say that. So let's cut this down to the year of COVID taught me the importance of self-care as I relearned the joy of the afternoon nap, right? Let's get to the point. So avoid. Don't do lists. Don't do short sentences like this. Don't praise the school. They already work there. They know everything about the school. Don't use overused phrases like blood, sweat, and tears. Avoid quotes from famous people unless, of course, you're going to go through the whole essay with it, and then avoid the COVID stories. Instead, what you want to do is you're going to think of this as a piece of fiction. Think of this as a story. You're writing the next Harry Potter novel. It's your story. Don't make it up. That's a big danger. You got to be honest, but tell it like a story and make them understand who you are as a person. All right, so proofreading, super, super important. Make sure you get proofreaders. So hopefully you know PaperRater already. You can go to paperrater.com to have anything proofread electronically for you, but it's only going to do the grammar. It's not going to look at all 6 traits of the writing. Some examples from history, why you should make sure you're proofread. One of the saddest stories was someone who was applying to Michigan State and to U of M, wrote the Michigan State essay first, and ended it with, that's why I want to be a Spartan, go green. And she came in and she brought me the essay and we read through it and I said, yeah, this is really good. She said, well, I'm thinking I just have to tweak it for U of M, but I can say the same things, right? I said, oh, absolutely. It's not like they compare the essays. So she did, she wrote it up, and this is when a time before it was electronic filing, she folded it up, dropped it in the mailbox, and as she let go, she realized she forgot to change the last 2 sentences. So she sent it to U of M that said, that's why I want to be a Spartan, go green. Bad news. So make sure to proofread. And then these come from former student essays. I like to torture. I torture kids after school and weekends sometimes. The young kids are the best to torture because of the looks on their faces when they get it. I'm a proud NHS torture. Hopefully you see what happened. The person misspelled it, let spell check just correct it, and did not correct it to tutor, went to torture instead. And then things like that. From that day on, Daniel was my best friend. No, apparently Daniel went into deep oil, into hot oil. I have a blank page before me, but by attending Purdue, my pen is ready to write my life story. Oops, don't want to send that to the university. The dance recital was starting and I was so very nervous. Yes, I see why that doesn't say recital. When I get older, I want to be a racist. So this one came across. Reading this, and all I read was that first sentence. That was the very opening of the thing. And I went, Danny, we need to talk about your essay. And he was like, what? And I said, what is going on? All I read was your first sentence. You can't say that. And he goes, you said we were supposed to be honest. And I go, but not like this. I go, why would you say something like that? And he goes, but that's what I want to do. And I go, I must be misinterpreting. What do you want to do like as a career? He goes, I want to be like IndyCar, a racist. I'm like, they're called race car drivers. They're not called racists. He legitimately thought they were racist. So please, please, please get proofread. All right, so some of the other proofreading tips. Once you've written it, walk away from it and come back to it. So give yourself at least an hour. If hopefully you'll give yourself a couple days. Write it, rest, then come back and read it. Music, lyrics in the background can mess with you. So when you go to write your essay, don't have any songs with lyrics on it because your brain will be trying to pay attention to the lyrics that you're listening to. Even if you think you're not listening, your brain is still listening. Avoid COVID. Ask friends what they've written. People, you're going to hear people saying, oh, I'm writing about COVID. I'm writing about COVID. And you're like, I'm not, because I'm smart. And I'm going to set myself apart. Use your online resources, Grammarly, PaperReader, and then even better, use others. So get adults that you trust to read it out loud to you. Like, this is what it's going to sound like in someone else's voice. Or at least have your friends read it out loud to you so you can hear it too. And if they're reading through something and they're stumbling over it, you're like, no, you've got it all wrong. Remember, you can't do that at the university. So if they start stumbling over something, that's your cue to go back and change it. That's something that you have to fix, because if they're stumbling, probably the reader of the university is also going to stumble. And then there's the overkill. Once you're ready, send it in. Good writing is never done. You can always revise things. And sometimes you actually revise it for the worst. So once you feel confident, or once someone tells you, this is great, just send it and be done with it. Just go, I'm just going to, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to send it. Because too many people sit on them for too long and then they change it just for the sake of changing it, and it actually makes it worse. All right, so some of those pitfalls that we talked about, dicto simpliciter, these are oversimplified language terms. When you use language like anyone or always or never, don't do those in the essay. You want to be specifics. Don't tell me that I always do something. Give me a specific time that you did. Avoid what's called ad misericordiam, which is Latin for to the sad heart. So don't write something like, oh, I'm going to make them feel so bad for me that they're going to accept me in the university. Don't do that, because they don't like those either. They're like, oh, why is this person trying to make me feel terrible? And why is this person focusing on the negative? Why do I think they're going to be good at college if they can't focus on overcoming, sad things? Don't be a sycophant. A sycophant is a suck up, right? So don't talk about how awesome the university is and what a privilege it would be to go there. Remember, you're trying to sell yourself right now. They need you more than you need them. Brag, but remember that you are sometimes a big fish in a little pond right now when you talk about who you're going against in the world. Don't be too honest, right? So I'm going to tell you, you have to be honest. Don't make up some story. The reality of that one is I've had several students who actually got called to the university because they were kind of borderline on something, or the university was actually considering giving them money, and they say, hey, can you come up for an interview? And then they ask you questions about your story. And if you can't do that, I said, one of the worst things about being a liar is you have to have a perfect memory. All right, so don't be too honest in the fact that you don't want to bring up something that doesn't need to be said, right? So, well, you said to be honest. And I had a student a couple of years ago who wrote about overcoming drug use, right? And I've been clean, and I was like, really? Is this the best topic? Isn't there something else you could write about? And he's like, you told me to be honest. And I'm like, well, it's good, you're clean. He goes, man, I've been clean for a week. I got to write about it. I'm like, a week? Oh, okay. Please don't write about that topic. All right, and then get a proofreader. So again, I'm willing to help. I'm sure other teachers are willing to help, especially if you're in one of the classes right now, there's only like 5 or 6 students in the room. Hey, maybe you can have some time to write in these last couple days before we go in June, and maybe your teacher will be able to help. All right, so my final message with this is you got this. This is about you, so don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. You get to talk about yourself, right? So think about what is the best part of you and how are you going to promote that to a university? And you put that into a story, right? I'm going to tell you a story about myself and you're going to love listening to it and you're going to be great. And you have this great support team that's on the computer right now. You also have other teachers around the buildings who are also willing to help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Say, hey, would you mind just doing a quick read of this? Or over the summer, sending something to someone, just saying, hey, could you give a quick read, give me some feedback on this? All right. The financial information is the last little bit. I just want to do a little bit here before I turn it over to Mr. Forsland, in that there are some websites up here. FastWeb and Scholarship Hunter are awesome websites where you actually go in and answer a ton of questions and they will find scholarships for you. So you'll get daily emails that says, hey, according to your answers, you fit this one, you might want to apply here. And what my youngest daughter found, she actually graduated from CMU too, Fire Up Chips, totally debt-free because she went after the $500 scholarships or the $1,000 scholarships instead of the $10,000 scholarships. And she found it much easier because there was less competition. And then her bill came in and it's like, here's your tuition, $16,000 minus $1,000 here, minus 500 here, minus 500 here, minus $1,000 here, minus the, and she ended up getting more money through scholarships that she was able to buy herself a new computer. So get yourself listed on FastWeb, get yourself on Scholarship Hunter, even if you have a full ride to a university already, right? If you know you're going to be playing, soccer or softball, those are the two I know for sure. Go after money that pays you, and then you can have that extra cash for books and other supplies that you need it. All right, so that's my little spiel on the money thing. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Forsland to talk about the other financial information. And you should be able to share your screen if you have something.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. We'll stop other screen sharing. Do I want to continue? So yes, I do, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So you should be able to see my screen there with one of my favorite books of late. I would really recommend, I think Ms. Lehman said that she was going to put a link to these 2 books on the website, but great book came out last fall called Who Gets In and Why by Jeff Salingo. He was the editor for the Chronicle of Higher Education, really the expert on college admissions right now. So I just want to plug that book. And I do want to mention something that, of course, we think of all of you guys as special, but something that is good news for you is that we don't have many young people running around the state of Michigan. Public school population peaked in 1977 and it's been going down ever since. And so we have here, because the birth rate has been going down and people don't come to Michigan and it's going to keep going down, that universities have to compete for you, colleges and universities. Unless they can attract students from out of state, they need you. CMU, I think, has one of their dorms is now mothballed because they don't have enough students to go in. And so these universities depend on tuition for revenue, and that's why they need you to go there. So you can see that, for Michigan State University, look at the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. In-state's like $25,000, out-of-state is $50,000. So some of these schools can attract students from out of state, but most cannot. Michigan can attract out-of-state students. Michigan State can attract out-of-state students. But Central, Eastern, Western, Grand Valley, they don't. And so they will offer you money to go there, okay? And so let's see, let's go again, yeah. Most Michigan has like 45% of the students are from out of state. Why do they do that? Revenue. The University of Alabama admits that because they don't get funding from Montgomery, the state capital, they recruit out-of-state students. I don't know if you know any people going to Alabama. They have more than 60% of the students at the University of Alabama are not from Alabama, okay? Because they want that tuition, they want that revenue. So if these kind of schools, you are like the cookie on the plate, you know, and they are all fighting for you. Think of schools as like businesses, and you're the customer, and you know, you're the one shopping for all this. So some of the colleges, you can go to their websites, and they actually have on the websites their awards right on the website. Oh, we got something in chat going on. I don't have my chat when I stopped sharing.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I'm answering questions. So.
Oh, all right. Okay,
Keep going.
good. Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So, you know, there's Grand Valley. They say if you have a SAT score of this, here's your money. If you have an ACT score of this, here's your money. If you have a GPA of this, here's your money. Some of them have competition. Central and Western, you go there, you write an essay. One of my niece-in-laws, she got a full ride tuition from Central by doing these competitions because they need you. Okay, so let me go down to some of the more wonky stuff here. I wanted to get down to another book that I highly recommend is this book by Ron Lieber. He's the Your Money columnist for the New York Times. It's called The Price You Pay for College. It just came out, and it's very good. It's a very good, very good book. Let's see here. So please find out how much money you have set aside for college. Can you guys do me a favor? This, I'm going to ask you guys to do two awkward things with your parents. And the first one is this. You say, Mom, Dad, when you said you'd help me out with college, what does help mean? What exactly does that mean? That has to get, you have to talk about that now. I mean, as you're applying to colleges. For our daughter, for undergraduate, she went to Michigan State. And we told her when she was applying to schools, 4 years in-state public. So if you want to go to a private school, you make up the difference. If you go longer than 4 years, you make up the difference. Graduate school, she's at U of M right now. That's on her, okay? So happily, she got full tuition at U of M, but she has to cover room and board. So I would have that conversation with Mom and Dad. What does help mean? Okay. So if you're interested in a private college like Kalamazoo College, that was my #1 choice for her. You know, the sticker price is very high, but they offer a lot of scholarships. Paying for college is like buying a car. Okay. You normally don't pay sticker price. When you go on a car lot, you don't pay the price that's in that window. You know, you can argue a little bit or get some more options on the thing. Unfortunately, I'm very good at that with cars. And my wife, she is the one who, you're going to do all the talking. I hate it. I feel so guilty when we leave the car lot. And she's, no, this is the way we buy cars. So I don't mind doing it with colleges, but with cars, I just feel really bad. Yeah, you don't pay sticker price. So beginning on October 1st of your senior year, you are going to fill out the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA. It's one of the most intrusive documents you will ever fill out, okay? But now you're applying for colleges now and you don't fill that out until October 1st. We'd like you to have your applications complete by October 1st and ready to go in. Or if you're going to a rolling admission school like Michigan State, I hope you already have your application in by October 1st. So when you fill out the FAFSA, that will spit back to you your expected family contribution. And what that means is what Uncle Sam thinks you can pay for your college. And I don't know about any other people here, but when I saw that expected family contribution, I thought, what the heck is Uncle Sam on? There is no way we can afford to pay for that for our daughter, but you'll get that back. But what the universities do is they figure out how much aid they need to give you. Okay, so when you fill out that FAFSA, they will find out what kind of need-based scholarships, you know, based on family income and your assets and everything like that, and also merit-based scholarships. And they've stopped really kind of calling them merit-based scholarships. Now they call them discounts, okay? And that's the way I think you should think about it as far as discounts. Because colleges don't want to give you any more money than they need to have you go there. They're businesses, okay? So the least amount that they can, if they don't have to give you money, they won't give you money. If they need to coax you with some money, they'll give you money. And so really high selective schools really don't need to give you very much. Okay, my most academically prepared student, I tell my students this, she had a perfect ACT, perfect SAT. She had a perfect grade point average. I think she took 19 AP tests and got 5s on all of them, okay? She got into every single school she applied to. MIT was her dream school. Where'd she go? She went to Michigan State because they gave her a full ride, room and board, tuition. She got 2 degrees in 3 years and then went out to Google. And, you know, she didn't get much money from MIT. I don't think she got any money from MIT. Didn't get much money from Michigan because they don't have to give money. So the more selective a school it is, the less money you're going to get out of them. Now, here's something that I tell my students, and we looked at it a little bit today, the mother lode of all statistics. It's called the common data set. And you can search for a school. You just search for your university, like Michigan State University or University of Michigan or Grand Valley or Yale. And then you say common data set in Google. And there's one item it's on, all of them look the same. That's why they call them the common data set. So they're like 30, 35 pages long of all these stats. And in item H, you scroll down to item H, they will talk about all the scholarships that they give out. So you can see how much a college or university is willing to pay for students. How much merit aid do they give? How much need-based aid do they give? But the common data set is very, you can see right there, item H, financial aid. And I grabbed mine from U of M. That one happens to be from U of M. Now, I also recommend a website. I had my students play with this one this morning. It's called collegeresults.org. And you go to college, I hardly recommend this site. You go to collegeresults.org, and then you feed in the schools that you're interested in. You click on this Compare Colleges tab, and you feed in all of your schools, and it will give you a basic ballpark cost for the college. It'll spit back to you. You know, I tell my students, no matter what you think of President Obama, even conservatives, I think they like the fact that he said, if you accept federal aid, if you're a college who accepts federal aid, then you have to spit back all your statistics to the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. Well, certain groups, like this is from Education Trust, what they do is they get all these stats and they will provide them back to you so you can better look at, you can see all the tabs up there. A lot of them have to do with academics, but this has to do with finances. So this will give you a ballpark figure. Even better is you go to your college, and I'm trying to plug DuckDuckGo there. So you can Google things, but you go to DuckDuckGo and you click it, you put in your college and net price calculator. President Obama also said, if you accept federal aid, you must provide a net price calculator. Now, this is the other awkward thing I say that you say with your parents. Well, a net price calculator, there's Kalamazoo Colleges. Kalamazoo College, the tuition is in scientific notation if you look at the sticker price. However, if you play with the net price calculator, you can see a much more realistic price. Now, here's the thing. Here's the other awkward thing that you have to say to your parents. All right, this one's the toughie. You have to say, Mom, Dad, what is our gross household income? And if you know your gross household income, you can put it in there. Now, if your parents are like my parents were, they'd say that's none of your business. And as it just happened to be, my daughter's 24 years old, and I just told her our gross household income like a month ago. She didn't know it. I feel bad on that. I should have done that ahead of time. And the only reason why I told her gross household income is that the degree that she's looking at, that she's working on right now at U of M, I said, well, if you want to know basically how much money your degree, if you get the average salary of that degree when you graduate, according to published numbers from U of M, you will be making more money than dad. Okay, so that's if you just want to look at how much money you're talking about. Now, if they don't want to tell you what the gross household income is, what I would do is I would ask you guys to ask them to play with, and I'm not being sarcastic. Don't say, well, then you go play with the net price calculator. You can say, would you mind going and taking a look? And this is probably a ballpark how much the college will cost. I can't overemphasize net price calculators. You should do this for each school that you're interested in applying to. And in my classes, in my crash course, this is what we're doing on Friday with my philosophy classes. We're playing with net price calculators. So if you're in my first hour, I forgot to ask you guys to ask your parents' gross household income, okay? And if they say no, none of your business, then what we do is I looked up the stats for our district, and we will use gross household income for the district with families who live in the district, and that's $117,000, something like that. Oh, it's updated now, $122,000. So then we play with it, and students can see how that works. And then what it does is it spits back to you a cost of attendance, okay? And it will say, I have a typo there. It should say COA, cost of attendance. That's the way that they abbreviate it. And between your net price calculators and you will, your common data sets, you will get your cost of attendance, basically. Now, this is before you do the FAFSA. The FAFSA you can't do until October 1st. That will give you really what they think that you should pay, but this will tell you how much it costs to go to a certain school. Now, remember, when you use these things, you have to look at, sometimes they're kind of naughty about this, and on their net price calculator, they'll slip in a loan. And they'll say, well, you only need this much to go to Grand Valley University. Subtract the loan amount because you have to repay loans. Scholarships and grants, you don't have to repay. Loans, you do. And so, this is a huge problem in our country today is student loan debt. And so remember, with loans, you can't even discharge them in bankruptcy. I know somebody who passed away going to a very expensive school, passed away, died. His parents co-signed on the loan. They had to pay off the loans. He passed away, he died, and they had to pay off the loans. I mean, how much more tragic can you get than that? And it was a lot of money. This is what I'd like you to think about when you're thinking about money. My wife is very good with money, okay? And we gutted our house a few years ago. And when we gutted the house, she did the budget first, and then we went to the credit union. So, and they said, well, we have very good credit because we don't spend any money. That's the irony of good credit, okay? So they said, look what you can get. Look at the loans you could take out. She's like, this is my budget. This is exactly what I want to do. So that's what I encourage you guys to do. You figure out your budget, then you look at loans. The New York Times got rid of this calculator. And then I don't like Wells Fargo, but Wells Fargo they got out of the student loan business. I didn't know that until this morning. I went to go find their calculator, and it turns out that what they do is they have a calculator that bases how much money you make, how much money can you take out. And I did find one for you here that says, let's see, this one, it's from Mapping Your Future, and it says your expected salary. So, I put in $40,000, for example, and that's your annual salary. And then it says how much you can probably take out in loans. You see these all over the internet. So it said you can take out $25,700. So these are the best kind of calculators to look at. This is my expected income. And then you can find out how much money, you would be taking out. Okay. So you can find these calculators on the internet. Unfortunately, the New York Times, and I've written them, I said, you had a great calculator and now it's offline. Can you please bring it back? But these are the best kind of calculators that say, what will your expected income be? All right. So remember, again, take out what you need rather than what you can. And you don't have to be obsessed with money. I just don't want you to be living in the van down by the side of the river. Okay. So we want you to be fed, and clothed. And so here's the thing that colleges love to brag about. They like to say about how their graduates will be doing after they graduate. And so you can look at collegeresults.org and they will say, you put in your colleges and they will say financial outcomes of their average graduate. And you got to be very careful about these. Okay, I'll show you a better way to look at these. But if you just want a ballpark figure, you can go to collegeresults.org and see how much their salaries are. Now look at the technical schools here, like Kettering, Michigan Tech, Lawrence Tech. They make more money. That's because they don't have philosophy majors, okay? And they don't have art history majors. They're all chemical engineering and electrical engineering and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to see their averages be much higher. I saw somebody, she graduated from the University of Michigan. She had $70,000 worth of debt and she was an anthropology major, okay? She just thought because you graduate from U of M, you're gonna make a lot of money. Not necessarily as an anthropology major, okay? Compared to some of the other majors that they have. And you can look at how quickly they paid off their student loan debt. Did they go into default? That's all on collegeresults.org. Now, again, colleges love, look at this. It's just so vague. 96% are either employed or in grad school, 100% placement rate, and they have all these fancy stuff. But what you should do is go to your college and then you type in your college and then you say earnings outcomes. So for my daughter's graduate program, the two schools she wanted to go to were the University of Washington in Seattle and then U of M. She didn't even want to apply to graduate school. I asked her as a birthday present, a Christmas present, please apply to graduate school. So she did, COVID hit, and I looked like a genius, okay, because there were no jobs out there. So we looked at the earnings outcomes at U of M and at Washington to see how much would that degree pay. So you could find, like, this is at U of M, this is the bachelor's degree version of hers. And so they tell you, you have to see how many respondents they have. So they surveyed 115 of their 2018 graduates and 106 of them responded. So that's a pretty good percentage. And then they tell you employment rates, they say how much money they're going to be making. Here, I'll show you with MSU. MSU, the Sparty moms love me right now. I put this on Michigan State's website yesterday. And I've gotten rave reviews. I've gotten over 100 likes because Michigan State has a handy little search engine here that will tell you how much the graduates make. So overall at Michigan State University, they're making $55,000. However, if I go into and I say, I want to go into the engineering school, and I say, I want to look at chemical engineering. This is how much look at that, 70 grand. That's how much their graduates are making. We can look at teachers. Shall we look at teachers? Maybe we shouldn't look at teachers.
No.
Oh, $39,000. Okay, so you can look and you can see how much they're paying back. It's a great website. I love this website with Michigan State. So it will tell you, how many are employed, how many are seeking another degree. So these are all tools that you could use. It's not just about money, but you have to be clothed and fed. All right. So again, find out what you're going to get from your parents. And if they say to you, you worry about the grades, we'll worry about paying for it. I don't know if they're going to be saying that in the spring. That's all of a sudden they see how much these things cost. And some of these schools are amazingly expensive. NYU, Columbia, you're talking $70,000 a year. I looked at Colby College. I played with their net price calculator. Even for me and my wife, for both school teachers, over $70,000 a year. That's an obscene amount of money, at least from my perspective. If it's not from you, from your perspective, congratulations, okay? So some of these more selected schools, look at all those. They don't even offer merit aid, like MIT, there's Colby College. So this can lead to a lot of frustration and guilt with parents. Ron Lieber talks about this a lot. And I got to say that the University of Washington was my daughter's #1 choice for graduate school. And U of M, she likes very much. And I love that degree, really, a lot of experiential learning there. However, we said to her, Kelsey, we love you very much, but we can't help you out. We did with undergrad, but we can't with graduate school. So, that did lead to a little bit of frustration, but that's why she's at U of M. And it's a great experience, don't get me wrong. But her #1 choice was the University of Washington, but that would have meant debt, living in Seattle and paying that tuition. She got a full ride tuition from U of M. So that made a huge difference, $50,000 worth of difference. Okay, so those are my little tips on paying for it. Let's see, Mr. Blakesley and Ms. Lehman, do you think I missed anything on costs?
No, it sounded good.
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I think it's that reinforcement of the value of a community college. And we are just really fortunate that we have a great institution just up on Haggerty. The other thing to know is all of the financial aid offices will also help you and support you. So you can always make an appointment, even if you don't see yourself specifically going to Schoolcraft. You can make an appointment with a financial aid office and get some guidance of kind of how that process works with FAFSA, as well as just kind of knowing how to plan it out. The other thing, just to add my side, is, the scholarships are great. And I agree, Mr. Blakesley said, many times they just pay you, because the understanding is there's a lot of other costs that you have with college that are not necessarily paying for the course or paying for a room and board, but it's paying for your school supplies or paying for gas here and there. But the other thing is never pay for scholarships. The idea is not to give your money out to get some. All that those companies are really doing are Google searches. So do the searching for yourself. You could do some of that throughout the summer to kind of get yourself prepared and organized of how and when you're going to submit. But there are a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed. So it's definitely something to consider for sure.
Okay, I'm going to stop share and toss it back there.
All right. So with that, we've kind of finished and we've only got about 5 minutes left here anyway. So we appreciate that you stuck around for the entire presentation. I did put the link back into chat, so make sure that you've checked in, that you've done the attendance sheet so I can send that off to get you excused from your afternoon. I also threw I had several people who privately asked me, what do these essays actually look like? So there are 2 examples in the chat now too, that you can read 2 of my favorite essays to see what a narrative starts with and how it goes into the goals and whatnot like that. There's also a link to my presentation. Mr. Forsland, can you make yours? I had a couple kids who asked that too. Can we get links to his presentation?
Sure. In fact, mine also has a couple other tips on there. For example, I went over with my students today, something I learned from Jeff Salingo's book, how to make the colleges know that you're interested in them. What are the little tricks you can play on them to show demonstrated interest? And if you show demonstrated interest, it might make it more likely that you get into that school. They have something called yield rates. So U of M last year they had 65,000 applicants. They accepted 17,000. Of those, 6,800 decided to enroll. The difference between the 6,800 and the 17,000 is called the yield rate. If a college knows that you're more likely to do that, to go there and actually enroll, then they're more likely to accept you. And so there are little tricks you can play with trying to make them think that you definitely will be going to that school. That's why early decision gives you a little bit of a break, because you don't enter into the yield rate. So yeah, I've got those slides in there as well. So you will see that if you click through, it's a PDF. I'll give you the PDF and a link. I'll give you the hard copy of the PDF for the digital copy. Okay, thank you.
So I do want to reiterate that if you want to start working on it now is the time to do it. So think while it's still fresh in your mind, go get those recommendation letters, go ask for them in person while you're still in school. Start writing your essays now. My students know that that's what we're going to be doing over these last couple of days. That's our final project. So, you can get help via email. If you're not one of my students, I'm happy to help over the summer too. But remember, the closer we get to the end of August, the less help I'm going to be. And once we start September, please don't send to me things because I'm starting with my new classes and everything's going up like that. So try and get it done now, you know, before the summer actually goes into full swing, and then just sit on it, take one quick look at it when you're ready to send in October, and you'll be ready to go. So again, I appreciate you coming today, for especially those who were not required because you're in my class, and hopefully you learned some good information. I'm willing to stick around if anyone has any specifics that you want to ask. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye, good luck.
Bye.
Hi, thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have a good
have a
day.
good Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm assuming there are some questions. Or people who just walked away from the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, I know two of them are mine, not going to be walkawayers. There we go.
Can I have the link to the presentation again?
Just for the essay one?
Yeah,
Yep. Control C. I'm going to throw it into chat for you.
thank
We'll
you.
also post it on the Canvas pages for all the counseling offices.
Awesome. All right. So
The Canton Counseling one?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
all right, there you go. All right. Last chance. Any questions? All
Thank you,
right.
guys. Awesome. I really appreciate you guys doing this. It was excellent as usual. It was fun
Aw,
to have
thanks, Diana.
Jeff, you and John and Barb all on. Thanks.
I'm going to get my resource to you tomorrow if